Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is my first video in 5 days. I've gotten some good responses just from the videos I posted in the last week or so, so I want to thank everybody that's joined the channel recently. I hope you like what you're watching. I was going to maybe do some announcements about what I'm doing with the channel, probably in a video later this coming week. But for now, this is actually going to be a response video to Silver Jackify's subscriber giveaway. He is actually doing a contest now because he reached 12,000 subscribers, which just kind of blows my mind how many people are watching him. His content's really great, just seems like a really approachable guy. Definitely a fan of the game, fan of cards. His enthusiasm's really authentic, so I've been following him for a couple of years now, even before I started my channel. But anyway, he's doing a great giveaway at this point because he reached 12,000. What the challenge is to show 5 cards from your collection that are $50 or less. So like your 5 favorite cards that are $50 or less. So I have some of that together. But first I had just a few things I wanted to go over from I received this week. I had some mail day. So these came earlier this week. I got 2 of these in the mail. I got the Sapphire edition from 2021 Topps Chrome update. Kind of debating what I'm going to do with them. My goal was to actually probably try and move these on, but we'll kind of see if that's what I eventually end up doing, or whether I hold them or open them. And if I do open them, I promise they'll be on the channel. But I was just happy when these came this week, so I'll move those off to the side now. Got a few things for some of the projects I was working on, so let me put the card holder back here. Just an update on my 1967 Topps set that I'm working on. Got a Jimmy Pearsall high number card this week. It's actually his last card as a player. Later went on to become an announcer too for the White Sox here in Chicago, and I think a few other teams. But anyway, this brought me down to 14 cards. And actually, as we're talking, one of my friends, Dre Diaz, who has a channel too. So if you haven't had a chance to see some of his stuff, he does a lot of sports card stuff and also Disney things. He actually was at either a card show or a card shop, and he sent me a picture of a card I needed. So I agreed, green lighted the purchase there. So now I'm down to 13 cards to complete the 1967 Topps set, which is really exciting. Some of the big ones still remain in the high series, unfortunately. So this probably won't be a project that gets done this year, but that's an update there. Got the Jimmy Pearsall. And the last card I got for this month, this kind of fits in my getting a graded card from every Hall of Famer. I got Jim Bottomley from Diamond Stars. At some point, I'm going to do probably a video on Diamond Stars. I have a few of them now and want to kind of just do a showcase of those things. But also then, at some point, I think I'm going to do like maybe a player series where I kind of go through some of the Hall of Famers and kind of talk about some of their career stats and what they did both before and after their baseball careers. So it's PSA 1. It's not the best condition, but the price was really, really good as far as what I was able to negotiate. I found that you can still find some really good deals on pre-war cards, just because the market's just a little bit different. On the high end, it's super high, obviously, but on the low end with some of these guys that are in the Hall of Fame that just are not on the tips of anybody's tongues unless you're a really Hall of Fame fan. Sometimes you can find some good deals. So this is like one of them where I was able to get it. So anyway, that was the other card I picked up this week. It was a Jim Bottomley. All right, so onto the contest. I got one honorable mention that I was going to put in the video here. I just thought this was funny. I pulled this one from a pack a few years ago. It's the San Diego Chicken card from 1982 Donruss. It's actually the Air card. The Air, because there used to be a trademark because the chicken is trademarked itself. This is actually missing that trademark, so it's actually the Air card. So he's going to join us for the video. I'm going to put him in front of the Luis Aparicio here for the background. But here's the core cards. I picked these because they have a little bit of a story for each and every card that I got here. And these are ones that span from my childhood to even recent pickups, some of which I've opened. Other stuff I've obviously bought and the already graded. Let's start with one that dates back the longest for me, and also I think it's the oldest card. No, it's not the oldest card I've pulled, but for me it's the longest one. My dad picked this one up for me. My mom and dad actually, I think, bought this card for one of my birthdays during my childhood. As I kind of mentioned before, Brooks Robinson was a player that I looked up to when I was a kid. Not knowing too much about his career because my dad actually knew his secretary. We got some autograph stuff from him well before I knew he was an active player or not. So by this point, I knew he wasn't an active player when I got this card, but I got this 1965 Topps card here. It's in probably about maybe excellent condition at the most. And it did seem to kind of fit under $50 when I was doing some research on the card. Granted, if it was graded, that would be a different price for this card, but it's in pretty good condition for a 1965 Topps card, front and back. So I'm pretty happy with that one. So Brooks Robinson is one of the cards. Kind of put him here in the background. See if I can kind of keep some of these cards up and going. This one's got a fun story. I got at the National in 2019. It was in Rosemont here in the Chicagoland area. I was here and some of my nephews were here on a trip from out of state. And so they decided to go with us to, my best friend and I go to the card show, and we bought a hobby box. And if you got a hobby box, you got like a silver pack in there that they handed out at the Topps booth. And they were all, the cards that were in there were Bowman Chrome, and they're stamped the National. So it was a card of like 4 cards in a pack. I opened them up and I got a color parallel of like a Didi Gregorius that I later sold, but I held on to the Juan Soto. Just because I kind of liked Juan Soto even at that point, but I thought the card looked kind of cool because it's kind of got like an X-Fractor sort of look to it if you can kind of catch it in the light here. And it says the National here in the corner, so I just thought it's really cool. When I looked up the prices of it raw, still fit under $50 as from what I've seen. Graded ones obviously go much more. It might be a card that could be a candidate for future grading at some point. So I'll put Juan Soto in the back. The next one is from, I got this in May of 2020. My friend and I opened up some hobby boxes of Heritage. I got a 2019 Topps Heritage high numbers, and he got, I think, a 2020 Heritage box, the low numbers at that point because it was early in the season. I got the box and we decided to open it, and this is when we were still doing things on FaceTime and Zoom, so we were showing cards through our cameras and our phones or whatever we were on to be able to do it just because of the pandemic. And actually I got this auto, so and it's the only auto I've ever pulled out of a Heritage box at this point. I haven't opened a lot of them, but when I got it I was like, oh wow, Tony Oliva. I got a really big reaction. And I was like, he potentially could be in the Hall of Fame at some point, and I was really pleased to get it. And lo and behold, he got into the Hall of Fame earlier this year through the Veterans Committee, and I think it was pretty well deserved. So it's the blue auto. I did look up some comparable ones, and it did look like there wasn't a lot that recently had sold, but they did all look like they kind of fell still under $50, but not by much. The red autos obviously would be a whole lot more. So that was pretty cool. I thought when I got that Tony Oliva auto out of the Heritage box, and it was probably one of the more exciting pulls I've pulled so far, just because it kind of fit some things that I like to collect: the Hall of Fame cards, vintage cards, a set that I built, a set that I was working on, and then an autograph on top of it. All right, so I got 2 cards left. I'm going to do a real more modern one recently, and this is actually a Derek Jeter Topps Gold from 2009 Topps. It is a PSA 9. I couldn't find a lot of recent information on cards that had sold in PSA 9 condition. I know I paid less than $50 for this when I got it than I think February of last year. So I was thinking it might still be under there. I have like also a Derek Jeter kind of collection I've put together too over the years that I might showcase at some point on the show. And for this card in particular, I think some of these gold cards that are serial numbered, just because like the gold cards tend to like remain popular, even though they're not the lowest serial numbered cards you can get anymore. But I thought they have some great long-term value of some of like the big stars from the eras of when these cards were popular, and Derek Jeter obviously being one of the biggest. And at the time probably was maybe the most popular player in baseball, even though some people wouldn't say he was the best, but he just was the most popular and probably one of the more successful one as far as winning. So I was pretty happy to get this card and into my collection. I've later gotten, I think, one other gold card of his, and it's a PSA 10 from like 2012. That's not on here just because that card's going to be over $50. And then finally, I talked about my dad earlier on here. So I have a lot of cards of his favorite player when he was growing up as a young man, and that was Stan Musial. As I kind of mentioned, he's from downstate, and was a Cardinal fan. So he would talk a lot about going to Cardinal games as a kid with his father, including even seeing the St. Louis Browns a couple times at Sportsman Park. But Stan Musial was the player he really talked about a lot, having enjoyed watching him and following his career over the years. And so I've slowly picked up Topps cards of his. I haven't been able to crack into the Bowman cards of his yet. I actually have like all but I think one Topps card that he appears on, many of which are graded. And this one was the most recent one I picked up. And when I was looking at the grades, I didn't see a recent one in this condition, but I kind of looked at a 4 and then I looked at a 2 and kind of ballparked it. And it's like just under $50 threshold from what I saw on eBay comps. It might be more if we did this in another month. I've noticed that a lot of the cards I was looking up that I got for less than $50, even just like 6-7 months ago, are already well over it. The reason being, a lot of these dual player cards from the 50s and 60s seem to be really getting a lot of traction, just because of the multiple Hall of Famers that you see on some of these cards. And this is a great one. You don't get too much better in the National League during this era than to see Stan Musial at the very end of his career standing next to Willie Mays in the middle of his career. Obviously, Willie probably is maybe the best baseball player of all time. That's debatable. Obviously, we can have a debate about that in the chat. That's fine. Musial probably was the best National League hitter career-wise at that point. Most of his records, his big ones, have kind of been eclipsed since that time. But I think this one is just really kind of cool, just because of who's on this card and where they were at with their careers. It's kind of like passing the torch, you will, from like the best all-time National League hitter, at least what they thought at the time. You can make a case for Roger Hornsby too, to Willie Mays, the one that was the incumbent. Hank Aaron fits in there somewhere for sure. I love the Hank Aaron as well. So, but this one was really cool. I think it's a card that's going to continue just to rise in value, and I think it's a great dual player card. So that's what I got. Those were the 5. And thank you again for Silver Jackify for offering this competition. Hope people have enjoyed the video. And have a wonderful Sunday. I'm going to be starting to head out now, just because it's a beautiful weather outside. I'm going to do some gardening. Just got done watching the Premier League game earlier in the day, and I'm really looking forward to potentially those two teams, Manchester City and Liverpool, meeting again maybe in the future in the Champions League final. So great start to the day. Hope people have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you later this week.